Okay, everybody, welcome. Welcome to those of you who are listening. This is week 3 of James Court working with BIPC Devon to bring you Boost Your Startup. Welcome, 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 welcome. It's lovely to see you. I hope you're having a great day. So, on the course, we went through a recap of last week. I'm not going to recap again on here now, but today I'm going to talk to you just for a little while about visioning. About the importance of having a vision for your business, how you bring that to life, how you go through the process of doing that. And then normally I would do some Q&A, but I'm not going to obviously Q&A to myself. So do feel free to send any questions you've got into the BIPC team and we can get them answered that way. So without further ado, what does visioning mean? I'd normally ask you in the group now, whoever I'm working with, what does visioning mean? And that normally kind of throws up a whole bunch of different questions. And why is that even important when you're running your own business? Why do we need to talk about visioning? Why is that an important thing? You know, some of the big businesses around the world and through history, they always have somebody at the helm or have had people at the helm, or they've been started by somebody who has a vision. Not just a pipe dream, pie in the sky, by and by, but a vision that really keeps them centered on where they're going and how they're going to get there. And we define a vision very, very clearly. And it's very, very important. And I want to anchor this question of what does visioning mean to the answer that we have here, which is this. A vision is a picture of the success of a project at a particular time in the future. Now, I think it's very, very easy to get mission statements caught up in the same thing as having a vision. Now, a mission statement or a statement could be something like, we aim to be the best supermarket in the UK for providing fresh produce. Great. That's a brilliant mission statement. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Great. Kind of up here, you know, something to aspire to, but it isn't a vision. A vision is a picture, a really clear picture of the success of a future project at a time in the future. So if you're thinking about putting together a vision document, and that's what I'm going to talk to us about for a moment in a second, it's got to be really, really clear, but it's also got to have an end date to it. It's got to be a project. It's got to be something in the future. You know, I've spoken to somebody once, a business owner who had a future vision for setting up their own premises. And they were able to tell me what the color scheme was going to be on the walls, what the painting was going to look like, what the pictures were going to look like in the wall, what the IT equipment was going to be like. The vision was really clear, and that was going to be set up by 2026. He was going to have 5 staff, and they were all going to be earning bonuses, and it was all very, very clear. And then they started to work back from there. So it wasn't just one statement. It's very, very clear. So first thing, when you're thinking about your vision and your vision document for what you want for the future of the business, it is a picture of the success of a project at a particular time in the future. It's very, very clear. I want to show you a video now of Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, there's not many people, I wouldn't have thought, listening to this who haven't heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you might be thinking, well, why are you showing me a video of Arnold Schwarzenegger? What's he got to do with having a business vision? Well, the story with Arnold Schwarzenegger is so interesting. And I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, to get onto YouTube, to get onto Netflix and watch his documentary called Arnold. And it's just a great case study in having a really clear vision and acting on it. He was a small boy from a small town in Austria just after the war, the Second World War, and it was expected to just go along life quite normally and have a family and become a police officer like his dad. And he was walking past the shop when he went to the city of Graz in Austria, and he saw this shop selling American things, and he'd always been really interested in America. and he'd gone to the movies not long before to see the film Hercules. And the main part in that movie was a guy called Reg Park, who lived in the UK and trained in Leeds in England, and was Mr. Universe. He big, muscly guy, and he became Hercules. And Arnold Schwarzenegger dreamed and had a very clear picture that he wanted to become just like him. So he walked past this store in Graz, and he'd seen this magazine. Reg Park was on the front, all about how you become a bodybuilder. And the rest is kind of history, because he absolutely focused himself on a clear vision about becoming Mr. Universe himself, of which he did. And then moving to America, he knew he wanted to be an actor like Reg Park. He was told it would never happen because of his thick Austrian accent. And I think we all know the rest is history. If you've seen films like Twins, obviously The Terminator, and all those famous films, that was born out of his sheer determination and his vision. And it was his vision that carried him. And that's the important point here. There are lots of visionaries that we have known throughout life. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. That kept him focused in those dark moments. People like Richard Branson, who had a dream to set up an airline back in the 80s when there was only two airlines. And he set up Virgin Atlantic, but at the time there was only United Airlines and BA. There was no one else. And everyone thought he was mad, but it was the vision that kept him going in those darkest moments. Oprah Winfrey had a vision to start her own chat show. She was told, she was even fired, being told that she'd be no good for television, yet her dream kept her going and focused in the future. And this is what Arnold Schwarzenegger has to say about having a vision.
The first rule of success is to have a vision. You see, if you don't have a vision of where you go, and if you don't have a goal where you go, you drift around and you never end up anywhere. It's like you can have the best ship in the world, you can have the best airplane in the world. If the pilot or the captain doesn't know where to go, it would just drift around. It would not end up anywhere, or most likely in the wrong place.
Very, very clear. Very, very clear about having a vision. And I encourage you to watch that documentary. It's just a great study in having a vision and bringing it to life right the way through. So why bother? Why do we bother to have a vision? Why is it even important, you might say to me? Well, it's like a sat nav. You need to have that dedicated location of where you want to go so you can get there, so you can focus on it, because there's going to be days where you kind of don't want to focus on the vision because you might be bogged down in stuff. It's hard running a business. There are days when you just want to put the laptop down, you want to maybe shut the door of the office, turn away from what you're doing, and you just want to tear your hair out because it's exhausting, because there's some orders that haven't gone right, a client's let you down, and you're thinking, why bother? And if I go back to the people I just mentioned, it was their vision that kept them sustained in those times. It can be like standing at the bottom of a cliff sometimes and looking up for our goals and our plans, thinking, well, how am I going to do that? And it's our vision that sustains us. It gives us that location. It navigates us to why. Why are we doing this? It keeps us focused. It keeps us alive, and it lights us up on the inside. And when we have those dark days, we open that drawer, we take that vision document out, and we look at it and we think, yes, that's why I keep going. That's why I open the laptop again. That's why I put the key back in the door again a few hours later to open the office, because I have a vision for where I want to go, where I want to be, and how I'm going to get there. Now, for those of you who might be listening, I might think this is a little bit just all nice and flouncy, pie in the sky by and by. There is a science bit to having a vision, and that is how our brains connect with when we get in touch with something new. Scientists call it neuroplasticity, which kind of was about a decade or so ago. It started to become much more known about how our brains get in touch with when we start to learn something new. So when we start to write our vision document down and we start to get in touch with where we're going to go and how we're going to get there, and we plan it out, our brain, through the neurons in our brain, starts to create new pathways. It's like a new habit, or when you break an old habit, you create a new pathway in your brain. Now, the things that we all do every day, all the time, there's a clear pathway in our brains. But when we start to create something new, it's like going to the gym for the first time and we're flexing those muscles. Our brain starts to get in touch with it. So we have to get in touch with our vision document, our vision, where we want to go regularly. And there is a real science to it. Our brains then start to reconnect with it. We start to visualize it. We start to see it happening. And then we start to prime ourselves ready for action. And that's the whole point about the important part our brains play in this. You would have heard me talk about in previous sessions the importance of having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. We retrain ourselves, or we retrain our brains to think differently in those different situations. And it's the same with neuroplasticity. And all scientists around the world will tell you about the importance of how we can rewire our brain to get in touch with that important part of our future and where we want to go. It's important too, when we think about creating our future vision and where we want to follow our dreams, is to get ourselves into a really creative place. Now, young children often start to think about their future and where they want to go, and they have no editing at all, do they? A child will tell you, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an airline pilot. I want to be a vet, a fashion designer. You insert your why, maybe from when you were young and you were a child. And then the older we get, the more difficult situations become in our lives. It gets crowded. We get used to reality. We know our limitations, and we stop being creative. But when we start to think about how do we create a vision, how do we have to get our minds into a creative place. There's no point sitting down to write a vision document burdened down with all the whys you can't, all the hows that you can't, all the reasons why you can't, all of the blockers. You have to almost create a clean pathway in front of you, a completely clear runway in your mind. You have to get yourself creative. Maybe listen to some of your favorite music. Maybe listen to a great podcast that lights you up. Maybe go for a long walk out in nature. Something that allows you to just get away from what's maybe bogging you down and start to think about, well, what is the dream for my business? Where do I really want to be in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, a decade from now? What is the dream? Is it to have world domination in a product or service? Is it to be the best cleaning business, the best design business, the best X, you insert your X business that you can be? Is it to earn £1 million? Is it to sell for £2 million? What is your north? What is the vision? What's the goal? What's driving you? And you need to get that from in here and in here out onto paper. But you've got to be able to teach yourself to be creative to enable you to do that. And I want to introduce you to a guy called Ari Weinsweig. And Ari Weinsweig runs a business over in America called Zingerman's Community and Zingerman's Delis. He started with a $20,000 business loan back in the 80s with his business partner. And they've always used, now they turn over $40 million and have several hundred staff in a community of businesses. But the point is that they still use a visioning process, a really, really clear visioning process. And he talks about visioning like a child, to get in touch with the things that excite you and the things that light you up. So if somebody who turns over several $1 million a year is still talking about this, it's valid, right? So that's why I wanted to introduce you to Ari Weinsweig and just his thoughts for 1 minute on what visioning means to him as a business owner.
What we do with visioning, I would suggest, is very aligned with human nature, but I would suggest most organizations are operating in a way that is not aligned with human nature. My name is Ari Weinsweig, and I'm one of the co-founding partners of Zingerman's Community of Businesses in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The visioning process that we use was developed at University of Michigan in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s by a guy named Ron Lippitt, and he called it preferred futuring, and it's basically about starting with the end in mind, designing the future you want, and not getting bogged down in the tactical, strategic steps that you need to take to get there. The way we do visioning is really the way a 5-year-old visions. It starts with what you're excited about or what sounds fun or what you want to do. When we write a vision, it's not a prediction of the market. It's not trying to figure out the answer to the Rubik's Cube. It's coming up with what we believe would be a really amazing future that would be meaningful to us and to the people we're working with and to the community. Then we try to figure out how to get there. It's an inside-out exercise that's really about designing the life, whether personally or organizationally or both, that you want to create.
Thank you for listening. I hope that started to get you feel excited. I've seen that video many times, but every time I see it, I feel excited. And it should make you feel excited. Your vision should light you up. It should make you feel excited about where you want to take your business. How do you do that? How do you bring that vision to life? How do you do that? So we want to talk about what we put into a vision, how we start to take that absolute childlike excitement about the future and start to structure it and distill it down into the how we do that. So the first thing that is a key milestone for your vision when you start to write this down is it has to be inspirational. It's got to light you up. It's got to be exciting. It's got to be motivating. It's got to be something that almost, I would say, if your vision doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. It's got to be inspiring to everybody in and around your team or yourself or where you want to go in the future. Secondly, got to make it realistic and strategic. That doesn't mean that we don't shoot for the moon with our vision, but we've also then got to bring it back down to how do we make this come to life? So we've got to make it realistic and strategic. Thirdly, we've got to get it written down. We've got to commit that to paper or type. And fourthly, we have to communicate it to our team, to our staff, to our people, to those people who are going to be involved with our business, and start to explain to them so we take them on the journey with us and they get excited about it too. So some top tips for starting to write that document is maybe pick a time frame of 1 to 5 years. If you're a startup, perhaps maybe a year. Maybe if you're more established, a bit longer. Get creative. Start to think about your so fars. What have I done so far? What have I achieved so far? What can I commit to paper to start to get my creative side going? What can I think? Yeah, I've done that. I've won those clients. I've done that piece of work, that piece of work. Okay, this is good. I can start to think about some of the things I've already achieved. We write without editing ourselves. We write without thinking, well, I can't do that because, and I can't do that because with a vision document, it has to be totally aspirational. Next, I say shoot for the moon. Go for it. Go for something absolutely, completely exciting to your mind and to your brain. And something Ari Weinsweg uses, is the hot pen technique. And does it light you up inside? And just bringing us back to that hot pen technique, put your pen on a paper, get yourself into that creative place that I talked about, and maybe just write without thinking about spelling mistakes, grammar, or anything like that. Really, truly from your heart about where you want to be, say a year from now, if you're a startup, or 5 years if you're a bit more established, and just write out that thing, that goal, that plan, without thinking about all the whys you can't do it and the hows that you can't do it. Just allow yourself to write with total freedom. And hot pen means you don't take your pen off the paper until you finish writing, until it's all out from in here. And then you can look back at that and you can use that as a reference point for the future. That's a great top tip for where to start. I would do that activity normally if you were here, but you're not. So I encourage you to get in a room, maybe give yourself 2 minutes, put a favorite piece of motivational music on or something like that, and just start to think about, right, what's the dream? Next, well, how do we break that down? So goals, we need to start to build goals around that thing that you've just written, that document that you've just written. So our goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be achievable. They need to be realistic, and they need to be time bound. So they need to be smart. They need to be specific, really clear about what you want to do and when you want to do it by. Then you need to think, well, how do I measure that? Is it achievable? Is it realistic? And is it time bound? So bringing that to life and putting some structure around it. This is based on a startup that I worked with about their dream for the future. And we started to break that down into 12-month goals. The first thing that they needed to do was create a website. So there's the goal, create my website. But then the next thing, if you just flick back to making it measurable and achievable, is the way that you measure it was, well, I know I need to design my brand. I need to put a logo together. I need to work out my colors. I need to work out all those kind of things. I need to get my copy written for my website. I need to choose what platform. Who do I use? Do I use one of the major players? Do I go to a designer? How do I do that? But I'm going to set myself the goal that that's going to be done by the end of October. I know I need to hire an accountant because I need to get all the bookkeeping right. Because if I don't get that right, I won't be structured right. So I need to start to set up some meetings to make that happen. I need to act on the advice I'm given. I need to get some software set up. I need to get one of the major bookkeeping operators set up to help me to do that. I need that by the end of November. And I've said I want to make £2,000 a month by the end of the year. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we need to be really good at following up on all of our leads, all of them. We need to think about what income streams that we want for our business. Are you going to have a shop front? Are you going to have the ability to sell online? Are you going to sell at a market once a week? That's 3 different income streams. Are you going to have another income stream where you do one-to-ones with somebody online, for instance, in terms of selling? What price plan do we put on our product or our service that we do? Do we say it's more for consultancy? Do we say it's less for groups? Do we say we have different deals for those online to what those come into the shop? These are the areas we have to maybe start to think about. And then what's our customer journey? Excuse the spelling mistake in customer. What's our customer journey? Do our customers get a great journey from start to finish? What does that look like for them from when they buy a product to when it arrives at the doorstep to how we deliver it? Have we thought about how we want our customers to feel? And that's just some ways we can start to think, if you were thinking maybe that through the lens of a shop or a brand new takeaway or a brand new consultancy business. And we want to be the best we can be. The vision is huge and it should excite us. Then we work back with our goals and our plans about how we start to bring that to life. Next, just some top tips. What support do you need? Who do you need to help you? You might need to engage some outside help, some support with a graphic designer. You might need to lean on a best friend who's great at marketing. You might need to find somebody who's really, really brilliant at PR. Who do I need to engage with? What's it going to cost me? How much time and effort am I going to have to put into that? How much admin and support do I need? And by when? We need to really be clear on timescales. Otherwise, we won't make ourselves stay focused. And that's really important. Lastly, we've got to make ourselves accountable. And we've got to review where we're at on our progress on a monthly basis. So I would get somebody who you know, maybe a coach or a mentor, or somebody you know that's going to hold you accountable and help you stay accountable yourself for where you want to get to with your goals. Those are my top tips on visioning. I wish you all the very, very best on your journey. Go for it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Don't let that dream die out, because on those awkward days, those days where it's tough, it's the vision that sustains you. And then it's thinking about, well, how do I bring that to life? And how do I make that happen in a set time scale with specific, measurable and achievable goals in between as milestones along the way? I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.